really interesting fight kicking off our main card coming up UFC Vegas 17. We have the former lightweight champ Anthony Showtime Pettis taking on the great white Alex Morono. And Matt, for Alex Morono, it's been a weird bag here recently. I mean, you pick out some of the wins that he's had. Sung Kinan, he beats Zach Otto, he beats Max Griffin, he loses to Chaos Williams, and then he beats Reese McKee. And to me, it was like, well, he just lost to Chaos Williams quick on the first round. Probably a little too early to come out and fight Reese McKee. No, it wasn't. Alex Morono fought a really good fight, and that was only, less than a month ago. So we're going to be talking about a quick turnaround going from Reese McKee, and listen, Matt, we're probably the highest on Reese McKee out of anybody in North America, maybe?
Pretty much
North America. Europe's
Reese
high on
McKee's
him.
family.
Europe's high on him, but you know, you look at that win for Alex Morono, and it was a perfect game plan. I mean, you know Alex Morono is the type of guy that has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has a black belt in Taekwondo. If he wants to stand and trade, he just kind of bites down on the mouthpiece and really goes for it. But he does have pretty good offensive wrestling. We've seen that so far in his UFC career. You can definitely point to the win over Zach Otto as a reason why. I know his takedown accuracy less so than that of Pettis, and his takedown defense is less, but it is pretty good for 170 pounds. Now we got to flip the script, Matt. Anthony Pettis is one of those all-timers. I mean, to me, he's a Hall of Fame caliber fighter. And I know a lot of people, maybe even myself included on certain days, say that he hasn't really been the same since 2014. I'm going to rattle off the losses, though. We got Rafael dos Anjos, he loses the belt. Then he loses to Eddie Alvarez. Then he loses to Barboza. He loses to Holloway, loses to Poirier, loses to Ferguson, loses to Diaz, loses to CDF. CDF's good. Don't tell me anything bad about my guy, Carlos Diego Ferreira. I love him. He's awesome. But other than that, Diaz, Ferguson, Poirier, Holloway, Barboza, Alvarez, Dos Anjos,
Some of the best fighters ever.
those are all-timers, and you can't discredit any of those. The wins sprinkled in there, submitted Charles Oliveira. Remember what happened last weekend? Charles Oliveira, Tony Ferguson, awesome win. Can't take anything away. Beat Jim Miller. That's a gritty win. Gritty vet. Lyme disease. Michael Chiesa. He submitted Michael Chiesa, and Matt, that's a fight that at lightweight, all right, Chiesa looks like a different guy at 170 pounds, but that's an awesome win for him there.
Yeah.
The knockout win over Wonderboy in the main event, UFC Nashville. If you caught This Week in MMA from last week, our guy, Canadian country legend, Tebe, was there in attendance, 10th row. Awesome win there. And then his last fight, a win over Donald Cerrone, UFC 249. Anthony Pettis has very, very good wins. I mean, everybody remembers the Henderson fight back with WEC and the Showtime kick. And Matt, an added wrinkle into this this fight camp that we've seen from Pettis. I don't know if you've gone on the Underground Whisper Network and seen the videos from Facebook, but the new Showtime kick, have you seen it?
I have not. I heard he was rumored.
It's a spinning cow tip is basically what it is.
Lovely.
He just trips you from behind.
Okay, this fight's very interesting, and we talk about the losses that Anthony Pettis has. Anthony Pettis is in this weird point in his career where there's been so much film that you can watch about Anthony Pettis, and he does have one weakness, and that's the wrestling component of his game. Look at how Carlos Diego Ferreira was able to beat him. He just stuck himself to his chest and kept on taking him down, and it was a game plan that Clay Guida, all the way back in the day, sort of had somewhat established fighting Anthony Pettis, because a lot of people forget, Anthony Pettis came into the UFC. It's not like he got an immediate title shot. He fought Clay Guida, loses a split decision, and it just... his opponents didn't figure it out that, hey, that might be the best game plan. Take him down as much as you can. I know Anthony Pettis has phenomenal jiu-jitsu, but if you yourself are a good grappler, we saw it. Dustin Poirier, not really known for his jiu-jitsu, has good jiu-jitsu, though. He was able to just go out there, take down Anthony Pettis, sit in his guard, get into half guard, and just really elbow him a lot from the ground and pound positions. Alex Morono, oddly enough, can do and can enact that game plan on Anthony Pettis. He's a great wrestler. He has good cardio. He has good jiu-jitsu himself. I'm just questioning the stand-up of Alex Morono in this fight because he is going to have to close the range eventually to get to Anthony Pettis. And at 170 pounds, Anthony Pettis is a much more powerful striker than he was down at 155 pounds, or at least in this stage of his career. And you have to remember, Anthony Pettis fought at 155, was the champ, moves down to 145, submits Charles Oliveira, fights Max Holloway for the belt, misses weight, but still, fights for the belt at 145, and then moves up to 170 and has fought at 155. So this is a guy... doesn't really mind changing his body composition depending on what weight class he's fighting at, but no matter what, he fights in the same style. We know what we're going to get from an Anthony Showtime Pettis fight. He's got great stand-up, really good boxing. The kicks come from so many different angles, you're not really used to seeing them. And the jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. The question comes down to, what fighters can you match Anthony Pettis up with to get the most out of this stage in his career? And I do like what the UFC did with Alex Morono. I always find it odd, and I talked about it a little bit on the recap show, when you have a former champion who's at this sort of later stage in their career when you know they're not going to win a belt anymore. It's just weird seeing Anthony Pettis without a number next to his name, and I kind of liken that to a Junior Dos Santos, or even kind of what Robbie Lawler's going through at this stage in his career, where you have a guy with a big name and they can still have competitive fights. It's just they can't have competitive fights against the elite of the elite anymore. So I like what the UFC's doing, matching Pettis up with Morono.
It's kind of different. You know, you had Carlos Condit taking on Court McGee not that long ago in this weight class. You look at Jose Aldo, what he's doing in the co-main event against Chito Vera. It's a little bit different because it's a little bit more higher profile. But in terms of age and damage, Anthony Pettis is right in that category with Jose Aldo. The fact that they're both 33, 34 years old. They've had so many title fights. I know for Pettis, obviously less so. We're talking about a GOAT and a Hall of Famer, no less, but still, it's just an odd point if you're an Anthony Pettis fan, especially if we look at the fan votes, about 670 of them, 83% going with Pettis, 62% have him to win by decision. If we look at the odds, Pettis opened a minus 330 favorite, now to minus 230, so there was some money that came in on Morono, and now it's kind of dropping back down towards Pettis, but for Morono, plus 270, went to a plus 164. He's now to plus 192 as we tape this on Monday night. Matt, it is a tricky one. I mean, Alex Morono, very physically imposing. I know the fight, if you really want to pick out a good Alex Morono fight, the McKee one's great. It is. But to me, it's a Max Griffin fight where he rocked Max Griffin. I want to say it was second round going into the third. And then in the third round, when you get Max Griffin rocked, if you don't knock him out, the guy goes absolutely psycho. And he will just go full bore for the rest of that fight. So he awoke a demon in that one. But if Alex Morono can really just stay on his bike, make it a tough, gritty fight, he can definitely pick up some wins if he mixes in some of his wrestling. For Anthony Pettis, again, it is tricky. 2-3 in his last 5, but we talk about the losses. They're to really big names. The Cerrone fight was definitely a good one for him. The Wonder Boy fight was definitely a good one for him. And in terms of just pure striking, I mean, he's the more credentialed Taekwondo black belt. They're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. They're both Taekwondo black belts. Pettis, I believe, is to the... Is it third or fourth Dan? Third Dan black belt. So neat for Anthony Pettis. Overall in this one, who are you giving the edge to? Because I do think it's a very competitive fight, and I think it's a little bit more competitive than the odds would suggest.
I'm going to kind of go against what you just said. I'm not only going to pick Anthony Pettis. I like Anthony Pettis inside the distance. I do think he's going to finish Alex Morono. Alex Morono's striking defense is not great, and we saw that in the Reese McKee fight. That was only a month ago, or I guess less than a month ago. He can get hit, and he can get hit clean, and as the fight progresses, his hands do tend to drop. We saw that in the McKee fight. He was having great success earlier on in the fight, but as the fight progressed, Reese McKee was still very much in that in the third round, and Morono was eating quite a few clean shots. And if Reese McKee and Chaos Williams are able to hit you clean, Anthony Pettis should be able to do the same thing, and I like Pettis by stoppage.
I mean, Reese McKee went 133 for 242 total strikes in that fight. That's absolutely insane. Didn't throw a lot of leg kicks, so you're going to have a fresh guy on the feet moving around for Alex Morono. But that's the thing. He doesn't really have a big spring in his step. He's kind of not lumbers forward, but you kind of catch my drift here. He's not the most fleet of foot.
Slow is a word that I would use.
But he does have a very complete game. So does Anthony Pettis. And at this point, at 170 pounds, I'd be surprised if Anthony Pettis lost this fight. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. We're both going with a former lightweight champ, Anthony Pettis, to turn back the clock, get the big win over Alex Morono. Matt, we have a really busy card with 15 total fights, headlined by Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Jeff Neal. The hands of steel, Jeff Neal. Great to see him back in the octagon. So join us over in the playlist. Keep locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt, as we always say.
Let's get into it.
And if you like the picks from this week, I mean, hey, it's been a really busy week for Fight Night Picks. We actually had the chance to feature on What Happens Here with Markus Deegan and Matt Parino. Make sure you check out their show. It was us and Ariane Celeste. And while we might be better looking than Ariane Celeste, I don't know if we know as much about fights as she does. So check out their show. You can learn a couple of things, and I'm going to clip a little bit of it at the end of this prediction. But make sure you check them out. What Happens Here? They're based in Vegas, a great podcast, and they've had some really crazy guests. So hopefully we can go back on there, but make sure you check it out. And here's a little sneak peek of some of the stuff we get to talk about over.
I don't know if you guys bet on the UFC. I don't know if you like to spend a lot of money when you're betting. I don't know if you like to do that, but these guys have got a 97% success rate on the picks that they pick. You want to win some money? Well, this is going to happen right now. Matt, you want to introduce your brothers?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig and Matt, the Fight Night Picks. You boys there? What's going on?
Wow, what an
How's it
How
intro.
are you guys?
Look how happy Matt is that he's been watching Ariane for the last 30 minutes. Look, he's like stunned.
Stop.
He's like stunned. Who's your favorite Octagon girl, boys?
You were just talking to her.
What's happening, my friends? Thank you very much for coming on and joining us. We do we appreciate you coming on. Can you let us know exactly what you guys are, what you do, what you're about, and what you can give to all of our guests here at What Happens Here?
Yeah, I mean, we run kind of an MMA site. We covered some fights live, and the pandemic's kind of been a bit of a weird year for everybody, and for us, we kind of really steered into the name, so we started making picks, and it's really just kind of popped off this year. So it's been kind of wild, the growth that we've been able to have, but we're going through these cards. The biggest thing for us is kind of picking off some of those names that a lot of people might not be familiar with, but I mean, really going through, spending a lot of time on some of those lesser known fighters. And then of course, talking about some of the big fights. And I mean, we've had a lot of crazy ones here recently. This weekend's card's insane. I think there's 14 fights on the card now. So it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So where do you guys get all of your information from? Where do you get your knowledge about these fighters to be able to be so adamant on who your picks are, and that you guys are actually picking and people are winning? Where's all your information come from? Are you like UFC mixed martial arts fanatics?
I don't know. I don't know what you'd call it. We're scrolling the underground networks. We're reading up on the topology.
We argue in an office for hours at a time about who we think's really going to win. So normally that kind of weeds out all the bad decisions.